This episode of the Mega Meeple is brought to you by our supporters over at Pod Pledge. Welcome back to the Mega Meeple, this show all about gamers and the games that bring them together. This is episode 36, and still no Al this week. He's still battling the crud or whatever the heck has been going around here lately. So if you think about it, send out some happy vibes to Al. He gets better, and he'll come back onto the podcast. I'm sure. Everybody agrees, when I was on the show and you got this, discussion and banter going back and forth, I think it's a lot easier to listen to rather than me just drone on and on. But I think I can make up for that in this episode because of our guest. I think you're going to really enjoy. I'll get into that a few minutes later. But recently the postman has dropped a little care package on the steps of the Mega Meeple studio and finally got our Kickstarter of Rising Sun. This is the new Simon game designed by Eric Lang. And it's been called the spiritual successor of Blood Rage. Now, although Blood Rage has, in fact, I got Blood Rage as a Christmas gift a few years back and enjoy playing it still. And Rising Sun, compared to the Blood Rage, Blood Rage was more of the Valhalla mythos there, but the Rising Sun is more of a feudal Japan, area controlled, also has some combat in there. But when you really get down to the bare knuckles of it, Rising Sun is a different beast from Blood Rage. For example, there's no card drafting in it. The miniatures are still epic, as you would expect from Simon. And the cool thing is, if you got the Kickstarter, it should be arriving at your doorstep any day now if you haven't received it already. But the cool thing, if you got all the stuff for the Kickstarter, for example, the Dymo box has an extra layer of the plastic inserts. So you could basically take all the miniatures from the two small box expansions, the Kami Unbound and the Monster Pack. You take all the miniatures from those two boxes and put it in the Dymo box. And so you have pretty much all inclusive with those two smaller box expansions, as well as one other clan and all the token upgrades and stuff like that for the plastic having the flags instead of the cardboard tokens for the ranking of the regions that's going to be battled. You got the upgrades to the clan alliances and also the upgrades to the strongholds. Now, the cool thing about each of those clans is each one has their own special ability. For example, the Turtle Clan, their fortresses are able to move from one region to an adjacent one. The Dragonfly Clan, they can move wherever the hell they want. They're just flying all over the place, and regardless of whether they have a fortress in that region or not, they could go there, even if it's a region on the other side of the board. And then with the Dymo pack or the Dymo box, I should say. I think it's called the Dynasty box or Dynasty pack. So altogether, you have about 8 clans that you could play as. Now, I don't know. We haven't played it with a full 8 player yet, so I don't know how advisable that is. If it just gets bogged down and convoluted. But so it'll be cool to see all the different possibilities of this game. because there's a lot of replayability. There's a lot of variation, particularly with the season cards that you could put together for your game. They have basically some season cards for a deck, and then they have a variety of specific season cards that you could incorporate into that deck for your game. And you could play, so that adds right there a lot of replayability. So once I got it, the biggest, basically the biggest challenge that I had was to find a place on my gaming shelf to put it. So we had to do a little, shuffling around and reorganizing to fit the box, because particularly the Rising Sun core box, damn, that thing is wide. it's pretty big, and there's a lot of stuff in there. It's certainly worth the hype as far as the quality of the components and the miniatures. Of course, you're talking CMON, so of course the miniatures is going to be a focal point of the game. But it certainly lives up to the hype, and I'm excited about getting that to the table. Now, I don't know, Clank in Space, or as we say, Clank in Space. Thus far, of all the Clank iterations, Clank in Space is one of my favorites. Just for two main reasons: is it's the modular board, and two, just the iconic references that some of these cards have to science fiction and geekdom and all that stuff. I mean, just the illustrations and the references on the cards are worth worth a discussion points at the game table as you're playing it. But Clank is announced its new upcoming game in the Clank universe, and this time Clank is going to Egypt, and it's called Clank: The Mummy's Curse. So that will be coming out sometime in the spring. And then recently on Kickstarter, U-Boot is for those of you who played Captain Sonar, there's a new German U-Boat game coming out, and it looks pretty epic. So I saw that on Man vs. Meeple video, and as soon as it went live on Kickstarter, it funded in like 20 minutes or something, and it's still going. But that's another game that we're looking forward to. So already Al and I don't know about Al, but at least my list of the most anticipated games in 2018 is already outdated. Because they've already announced thus far, some games that we didn't even know about when we made that list. And of course the first one being the last expansion to Scythe. That's coming out later this year. But also a cool thing that I really liked and enjoyed is Dead Men Tell No Tales. Now that has a new, actually the first expansion to that game is on Kickstarter right now. And that game, Dead Men Tell No Tales, was actually the very first board game I ever purchased. So that was when I first started going into getting into board games. You always remember your first, as they say. But I remember getting that game. I think I got it through Amazon, and I remember breaking the box open and looking through all the cardboard and punching out the cardboards, and it's like, oh wow, yeah, I could really see the appeal of getting a new board game, even when you have all these other games to play. So at that point, I didn't have any other board games to play. This was it. So it was one of those things that as I was opening it up and looking through it, I began to understand and really see, I could really get into this. I could see the appeal of getting a brand new board game and the excitement of getting it to the table and learning the game and playing it as many times as you can to try to beat it. Now, Dead Men Tell No Tales, there's like only one way to win and like a half a dozen ways to lose. So it's almost as bad as a Cthulhu game as far as your odds of winning it. But this they have the first expansion called the Kraken on Kickstarter right now, and I'm really glad this game is finally getting some attention and love and care. And not only does it add components and some things to the game, but actually it corrects actually something that was basically the main gripe about the original game was the starting tile was a large. It had like 3 or so rooms in it, but if there was a fire that started in one of those rooms, there was really no way to isolate that one particular room because all the rooms were on this one initial starting tile. So evidently they have corrected that and mechanism in place to basically correct that error or that oversight in the original game. But I'm just looking forward to that, and that's one of those things where the game has been around for quite a while, and there's the first expansion, so hopefully that's going to breathe new life into the original game. And I know because it's been quite a while since I ever I can't remember how long it's been. It's been a while, but it's good to have this expansion come out now. That hopefully now that will start bringing that game out to the table more often. So I'm really looking forward to that. So that I think that will be a good question of the week. What was the very first board game you ever purchased? Do you remember how you felt when you finally received it? And what did you feel or think when you was punching out all those cardboard tokens? And I mean, I kind of view cardboard tokens and just punching out the tokens is, I kind of think of that as bubble paper for gamers. Is it like that bubble packing paper? It was almost stress relieving, in fact. So I kind of view that punching out cardboard tokens is like popping that bubble paper for games. But that's just me, and I'm weird. So, but yeah, what was your very first game that you ever purchased? And do you still have that game? Do you still play that game? So leave your comments in the comment section below, or reach out to us at any of our social media sites, Twitter, Facebook, stuff like that. Well, yeah, there's going to be a short one because we got a really cool guest in this episode, so I'm going to get right to it. We have Michael Coe from Gamelyn Games talking about the overwhelmingly successful Kickstarter of the next game in the Tiny Epic series. This is Tiny Epic Zombies. So without any further ado, let's get to that interview right now. All right, welcome back to the Mega Meeple, and it's finally happened. It was only a matter of time that zombies have invaded the world of Tiny Epic Games, and our guest today to talk about that is Michael Coe. How you doing, Michael?
Hey, Thomas. I'm doing good, man. Just hanging out, watching this Kickstarter go, and we did a live playthrough today on the Kickstarter, so people can check that out. But just enjoying the activity in the comment boards. Excellent.
Yeah, it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that this thing was good of fun, and so what is the whole zombie thing? Is this something that Gamelyn Games have had in the back burner for a while, or is it just wanting to bring out at the right time, or?
So we've been working on this game for about a year and a half, which typically our Tiny Epic games they're in development for about a year and a half to 2 years. So that's pretty average. So we've known about it for a little while, but we wanted to wait until the game was playing just right, and we felt like everything was in a good place to move forward with the game. So, and here we are.
And again, the return of the item Meeples, Now, what game was that initially introduced? Was that Tiny Epic Quest?
Yeah, so in Tiny Epic Quest, we introduced the item meeples, which a lot of people know as meeples, classic shaped meeples that hold items. So they've got we've engineered this meeple to be able to hold items. It's not real simplistic. The engineering in this took about 6 months to get it just right because we didn't want to produce a component that wasn't it wasn't awesome, quite frankly. We wanted to make sure that the items fit in there perfectly, that when you put the item in, it slides in nice, it comes out nice, but it doesn't fall out, right? Like, it's got to be able to have a good level of friction. And we also wanted you to be able to like rotate the item, so you can, if you're carrying a sword, you can either have it straight up or across your body, and it'll stay in the position that you set it. So a lot went into these item meeples, and they're, like I said, they came out with Tiny Epic Quest, so a lot of people now have item meeples in their possession, and it's nothing but raving reviews about them.
Yeah, it added a really good, unique, just aesthetic, and also just knowing right off the bat what items you have, rather than just keep them in like a stack in front of you. You just look on the board, and right there you see on your meeple what you have with you at the time. But yeah, the Tiny Epic Zombies. There's pays a lot of homage to The Walking Dead. We have our crossbows. We got our barbed wire baseball bat and the motor. Now the cool thing I noticed here is you have a police car and the motorcycle. And how do those things come into play?
Well, so you actually can put your item meeples right into these vehicles. With each new time that we bring the item meeples into the Tiny Epic space, we're trying to kind of level up or one up ourselves with the item meeples. And so kind of the innovation with this one per se is that we have introduced vehicles now that you can put the item meeples in, and they can still carry 2 items and fit into these vehicles. So in the game, it depends on what store you have, because in the game there's these different stores that and they're in the mall. We're in this mall called Echo Ridge Mall, and it's been infested with these zombies, and you're one of the survivors. And one of the stores is a parking garage, but if you flip that card over, it's a security office. And so it depends on what side you're playing with at the time. But the motorcycle comes from the parking garage, and the cop car comes from the security office. And they both have different abilities that are unique to each one. And so, in the game, you get several. So I'll kind of break it down just real quick. But in the game, you get 3 movements, and that essentially kind of runs the engine of the game for the most part. When it's your turn, you're gonna move 3 times, and then after each movement, depending on the store that you're in, what are the conditions surrounding you, you may be able to do these quick sub actions. But effectively, it's just 3 movements, and then it's the next person's turn. There's a few things that happen in between, but it's really simple and it goes by really quick. But if you pick up like a motorcycle, then you're going to get extra movements, and you'll be driving through the stores. And you can mow over zombies, while you're doing it. Or if you're getting the cop car, then you'll actually be kind of circling the outside of the mall, and allows you to travel a little bit faster and get to other locations on the opposite side of the mall faster to complete your objectives and stuff.
Okay, all right. And I gotta say, when I first the trailer to the Kickstarter is absolutely hilarious. If you guys haven't already, even if you don't plan on buying the game, at the very least, go to the Kickstarter page and watch the trailer, because I mean, whose idea was it to come up with that trailer? Because that is funny.
Yeah, well, it was my idea. It was designed by a guy named Garth Vickers, that is just a fantastic animator. And so originally he had done a video for Tiny Epic Quest, and this was he did this on his own accord because he was a fan of the game. He was a fan of the idea of item meeples. And so he put together this really great little trailer for item meeples back when we were doing Tiny Epic Quest on Kickstarter. And so, he kind of showcased his talent back then. And so when we were getting ready to launch Tiny Epic Zombies, I thought, well, man, I got to get back in touch with this guy, and I got to have him do something with these new Tiny Epic Zombies item meeples, because now instead of carrying around fantasy items like swords and bombs and shields and stuff, now you're getting rifles and a revolver and a chainsaw, and you still get a sword. There's a katana sword in the deluxe content for the game, but I was like, we got to see these in action, and we got to get the zombies involved, and we got to get these vehicles involved. And so I just wrote up kind of a quick little 1-minute story and sent it over to him, and was like, all right, man, let's bring this to life. And he went above and beyond. It really is a fantastic little trailer. It's just so fun to watch. So like Thomas said, even if zombies aren't your thing, if you like meeples or you like board games or you just like fun things to watch, you got to at least visit the Kickstarter page to see the trailer, because it's only a minute long, but it'll leave an impression.
Yeah, he really hit it out of the park on that one. I just laughed out loud when I saw that. So.
That's great to hear. Thanks for providing feedback on that. I'm glad to know that it's working, that it's leaving a lasting impression on people.
Yes. Now we have five modes of play. We have both cooperative and competitive and solo, and then with the cooperative and competitive, there's an option to do like a one versus many type of thing.
Yeah, so that's kind of one of the unique things about Tiny Epic Zombies that separates it from the rest of the series, is that we have the 5 modes of play. So you're going to get solo play, which has become commonplace for the Tiny Epic series, but you're also going to get competitive and cooperative. And within both of those different play modes, you have the option of playing against zombies controlled by the game, or like an AI, or zombies controlled by one player. So you get a one versus many as well. So it ends up being 5 different modes, and each one feels quite different than the next. So effectively, it's like you're getting 5 games in one.
Okay. Now, is the victory conditions different for each mode, or?
So the victory conditions remain the same, which is that you need to complete 3 objectives. Now, there's 9 objectives that actually come in the game, and so each time you play, you're going to randomize what objectives you have and whatnot. So they're going to be different in that way. So It'll keep it feeling very fresh, but that remains the same, where you want to complete these objectives, and you got to get all 3 of them done in order to win.
Okay. Now, as far as like the one player doing the zombies, is that something that they start out with right away, or do you start out maybe all cooperative, and then if one player character dies, does he turn into a zombie?
Yes, precisely. So the zombie player starts off with one of the human players, but you flip it over, and there's a zombie version of each of the different human characters. And so the zombie player will start off with one zombie character that has some unique abilities. And then during the gameplay, yes, if you're killing off other players, then you're going to actually absorb that. You'll flip their cards over, and now you're going to add more zombies to what you're working with. So you're going to get more abilities, and it's just going to become more threatening for the players. So that's really, really cool.
So if you just give us a rundown of the mechanics of the game and how it plays out.
Yeah, so like I was saying, you're starting in this mall, and there's going to be a courtyard in the center of the mall, and that's where you start with your meeples. And then you're going to build out the rest of the mall using 8 stores, and they're double-sided. So there's actually 16 stores that can potentially that'll 8 of those 16 will be in the game. So you get some variability there, and then you're going to draw out 3 random objective cards or scenario cards, and that's what you're going to be trying to do in the game. And there are things like call the CDC, repair the helicopter, escape the mall, quarantine the zombies, discover the cure, or investigate the source of this zombie plague. So those are a lot of different cool things. And the way that they break down mechanically are different. So if it's something like discovering the source, then that's going to be like an information deduction kind of mechanic where there's going to be tokens spread out throughout the mall that and then there'll be one token that sits on the objective card, and the one that's on the card represents the cause of this zombie outbreak. And you're going to have to move around and check the other tokens until you have enough information that you're confident to make a guess on what token is on that card, because it's not in the mall, right? So because there's only a set amount of tokens, and or if you're trying to find the exit of the mall, then you have to search all the different exits and you have to put together a pair, and it's going to be based on like a store type, and then there's also this little number that is on the cards for each of the store, and you have to pair up that store type with that number. And then after you've completed the other objectives, you have to end in the very specific store that matches what you put together with during the objective. So, and then there's some that are like pick up and deliver, other things like that. But on a turn, you're going to take 3 moves, like I was mentioning earlier. And when you move, if you move into a room with a zombie, you'll engage in a melee combat. If you move into a room next to a zombie, then you're going to be shooting the zombie, and they're going to result in different things. If you're shooting the zombie, then you're just spending ammo, but you're not losing any health or potentially taking any wounds. Whereas if you go into a melee combat, you're preserving your ammo, but then you have the risk of taking wounds, and that's going to be based on a die roll. And the main thing is that you're trying to manage keeping your ammo high and your wounds low. They're both on the same track. You've got your ammo at the top of the track, your wounds at the bottom of the track, and as you're taking wounds, that token is moving up, and as you're spending ammo, that token is moving down. If they ever meet, then your character's dead. And it's easier to get more ammo. It's hard to heal your wounds. So running in for melee, it may allow you to kill a zombie and not lose either your wounds, and you're not going to lose your ammo, and that's kind of effectively the best way to do it, right? But if you take those wounds, that's going to be more permanent than if you just stay back and shoot the zombie and then try to run and pick up some more ammo to restore what you spent. But after you've taken your 3 movements, you're going to have a search card, and this is going to be something that was given to you during the setup, and you don't know what's on the card, and you flip it over, and it's effectively you searching the room. Now, sometimes you may search the room and find another zombie, and that kind of overruns you, but otherwise, typically, you're going to be finding items that are useful, and this is where we introduce the item meeple, so you may find like a chainsaw or something along those lines. And then that's going to help you be able to shoot more zombies or mow over zombies and just allow you to get through the game in a less costly manner. And then after you've searched, on that card is a icon that represents a store type. If that matches the type of store that you're in, then you've made a noise. And if you've made a noise, everybody knows that's not good in a zombie apocalypse. Right. So more zombies are going to be added to the game board now. And every round there will be zombies added to the game board. But if you're making noise, it gets hairy really fast. So after that, the next player goes. And then they take their 3 moves. They reveal their search card. You'll draw a new search card at the end of your after you've revealed one, you'll draw a new one. So you always have one search card, and you're not quite sure what it is. Now, if you mix in the zombie player in between the player turns, then after you've taken your 3 moves and you've done your search card, then it's the zombie player who gets to place the zombies, and they can choose. Are going to be putting 2 zombies in the same store, or spread the zombies out to 1 in 2 different stores. But then if you've made a noise, they also get to move zombies or use some of their special abilities. And then the search cards that I mentioned that you have is actually going to be handed out by the person playing the zombie player, so they can kind of anticipate. Look, if I know that you're trying to complete the call the CDC objective, and I know that the radio is in the game store, and so I'm anticipating that on your next turn you're going to be heading to the game store, so I'm going to give you a search card that corresponds with the game store, so that when you flip it over, you've made a noise, and that's going to allow me then to overrun you with zombies. So there's some really cool kind of aspects that play into being the zombie player and trying to pit the players into bad situations and traps and whatnot. But if they're able to complete their 3 objectives, they win. If you kill off all the players, or if you get all the way through the search deck and there's no more cards left, then you as the zombie player would win.
Okay. Okay, so we got the retail version, and then we got the deluxe version for like $5 more. So what do you get in the deluxe version that's not available in the regular version?
So you're going to get 4 more search cards. So you're going to be able to pad that deck a little bit more. You'll get 2 item meeple items that go onto your meeples. Those are part of the search deck, and then you get 2 search cards that don't come with item meeple attachments because they're just kind of one-time use things. And then you also get 4 new characters. So that you get, which also counts as 4 new zombies because each one is double-sided. So, so just adds more options to your selection when choosing what you want to play, and then what kind of things you could potentially be picking up while you're out and about at the mall.
Yeah, and for the pledge levels and stuff, once you go to the Kickstarter, the retail version pledge is $20 or more, but if you can spend $20. Just add another $5 to get the deluxe version.
Right. The retail pledge is $20. The deluxe version is $25, which are discounted from what they'll be when they're off Kickstarter. Now, we don't offer deluxe content in retail stores, and so if you miss getting the deluxe content here on Kickstarter, you can maybe look forward to getting it from like the BGG promo store, or if you're attending conventions, then you can always get it from us in person, and we'll have it on our website, but you're not going to be able to – it's not going to be widely distributed, and we make a limited number of them, so they sell out pretty quickly as well. So really, it's the best time right now is just to jump in on the Kickstarter to get the deluxe content, because otherwise it's kind of hard to come by.
Yeah, definitely. And just by way of dating this, if people are listening to this like months and months and years down the road, the Kickstarter is going until, looks like February 9th of 2018.
Yeah, February 8th effectively, but it ends at midnight, so it's, but yeah, so February 8th will kind of be the last full day to be able to get in on it.
Okay. So at least even if people have missed the Kickstarter, the regular retail version will be available either at your friendly local game store or even through the Gamelyn website. Is that right?
If you jump on our website, typically we just offer the deluxe version. So if you're looking for the basic version, then you'll pick it up on like Amazon or over at your friendly local game store. But if you go to GamelynGames.com, then you can pick up the deluxe content and get the stuff that you missed on Kickstarter.
Okay, great. All right. Well, if you don't mind, Michael, we started a little thing trying to do something different here, but we play a little game with our guest called the Mega Meeple rapid fire round, and
all right,
you're not going to be timed or anything, but just give it a choice, and it just gives our listeners an idea of who our guests are, just personality wise. You ready?
Let's try it out. Heck
all
yeah.
Right. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Okay. This is going to be an easy one for you. Zombies or vampires?
Ooh, I've got a zombies game out right now, and I like zombies. But back in the day when I played Dungeons and Dragons and I was really into Ravenloft, a kind of a gothic campaign setting, I would have said vampires back then. Maybe I'm going to stick with vampires.
Okay. All righty. Let's see. Action or comedy?
Action.
All right. And Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead?
Game of Thrones, man. I don't even have to hear what your second option is. Game of Thrones all the way.
All right. And lastly, rock and roll or jazz?
Oh, classic rock maybe? We talking like Journey or Chicago?
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, then I'll choose that over jazz. But if we're talking kind of like major rock, like headbanging, heavy guitar, metal guitars, and just lots of noise, then I'll choose jazz.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, and I just thought when we were going through that, I just thought of another question. It's like, it seems like most games out there now fall under either Cthulhu or zombies. So I'm just kind of curious. Is there going to be a tiny epic Cthulhu at some point?
We do not have any plans right now for a Tiny Epic Cthulhu. That doesn't mean that we will never explore that theme. We have a lot of Tiny Epic games to make in the future. So never say never, but as of right now, it's not come up in conversation.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, Michael, thank you so much for being a guest on our show today. And if people want to find out more about the game or Gamelyn or you, where could they go?
You can check us out on Facebook /Gamelyn Games. That's spelled GAMELYN Games. We're on Twitter, Gamelyn_Games. We're on Instagram as Gamelyn Games. You can Google Tiny Epic, and that's really probably the most effective way to find stuff about us. But we have our website, GamelynGames.com, or jump over to Kickstarter and search Tiny Epic. And make sure you follow us on Kickstarter so that you're notified when we're launching new awesome Tiny Epic games and other awesome games.
Excellent. And as always, we'll have links to those things in the show notes of this episode. Michael, thank you so much again for being a guest on our show, and looking forward to playing and seeing this new game in the Tiny Epic universe.
Well, hey, thanks a lot again, Thomas, for having me on. I appreciate the chance to talk with your listeners. And all right, man, take care, and we'll see you online.
All right, will do. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Mega Meeple podcast. Stay tuned next week, as our guest will be Marshall Britt, talking about his successful Kickstarter game, Record. And for all you musicians out there, I think you really take real well to this game. And even if you're not a musician, I think this game has a lot to offer and enjoy. So stay tuned for next week's episode, where we have Marshall Britt talking about that. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you go over to iTunes and subscribe to the podcast, and leave us some 5-star loving and a good review. It really means a lot. If you don't have iTunes, you can also go to our Facebook page and leave us a review there, or follow us there. And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff. All the links to those things are on the social media page on the website. That's www.themegameeple.com. And if you'd like to support the show, you could go to either our Pod Pledge page or our Patreon. And again, those links are also on the social media page on the website. So thank you so much for listening, and we hope you will join us again next week. So until then, we'll see you at the gaming table.